hockey players are reported to be part of an investigation by the Ontario Provincial Police. They're investigating what they are calling an incident at a house party near Cobourg, Ontario, where members of the Cobourg Cougars were present. This comes on the heels of a second investigation involving players of the Gatineau Olympique. Police are investigating allegations 4 team members were involved in a sexual assault in Quebec City in January 2014. Our next 2 guests have been following these stories closely. Cheryl McDonald is a PhD candidate at Concordia University, where she teaches a course on the sociology of sport. And Ryan Kennedy is an associate senior writer for the Hockey News. And thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
We don't have many, if really any, details of what went on in terms of the Cobourg House Party, but there have been stories previously, one of which I mentioned in Quebec and the other in Ottawa. Those are just recent stories. When people start shining a spotlight on a culture that they think might be developing or still developing, I'll ask you, Ryan, is that fair?
Well, we are sort of picking and choosing here, but I think it is fair to look at the culture and say, what can we improve upon this? Because, you know, these are young players. The majority of them are not living at home. They're often with billet families, and they're in charge, you know, the teams that are employing them. So I think it's fair to say, you know, are they getting the proper supervision? Are they acting in, frankly, a civilized manner when they're not on the ice? And I think that's okay.
And Cheryl, let me ask you, with the research that you've done, do you think, I mean, we're hearing certainly about these stories, maybe even a little more than we used to, but do you think the culture of silence is being broken down bit by bit? In other words, people are coming forward more?
I do think that. I think that the media has been a catalyst of that, and also with things like social media and Twitter, it's much easier to get things around the world, and so we're hearing a lot more about it.
What about what the teams themselves are doing as we hear more about it?
I know that the teams are putting a lot of policies into place, and they have since the Graham James incident with Theo Fleury in 1997, when Hockey Canada started sort of making it clear that this type of behavior on any level, any sort of inappropriate sexual activity is not acceptable. And I know that at the major junior level especially, the players are sort of given a little bit of counseling on what is appropriate behavior and what isn't. And so I know that the leagues have policies in place. They've made it clear that it's unacceptable, and at the team level, at least some teams that I know of are trying to educate the players on the importance of the subject.
We know, Ryan, that some of these initiatives have been undertaken because of really unfortunate incidents, and, you know, in some cases, team mentality or entitlement. Is that changing?
I think that's a work in progress. When you speak to players, they still don't necessarily understand sometimes that their teammates can do bad things, and I think that's a big problem. And then you look, and again, they're teenagers, and they're still developing, and that's not an excuse for the behavior, but you know, they certainly need to be reminded and have it reinforced what inappropriate behavior is. And I believe because of that, this is something that is an ongoing process, and they do need to be reminded. And I think it's good when the leagues and the teams step up and really tell them that you know, certain social mores need to be upheld here.
Cheryl, let me ask you about some of your research, because as I understand it, you sat down with a hockey team, junior hockey team, and you had certain questions, and the coach was involved, and the coach said, yes, go ahead, do it. Tell me what happened.
Essentially, I worked with a major junior hockey team, just one, and I wanted to talk to them about what they thought it meant to be a man. And actually what ended up happening was a really wonderful conversation about what they think it means to be a man. But in fact, the coach actually vetoed my questions about hazing in women, so the study didn't go very far on that level. However, it was interesting to hear, as Ryan was just mentioning actually, about the struggles they face with sort of knowing the difference between wrong and right, because you're no longer living with your parents, and your teammates are the ones who are sort of policing your activities. So the lines between what society would typically consider good and bad behavior become very easily blurred.
How much do you think the coach needs to get involved in a team like that when you're talking about, I mean, his responsibilities, or I guess hers, would be to make sure that these players get the skill set on the ice and off the ice to a certain degree. But when it comes to social morals, is that the coach's job?
Well, I think because of the situation, you know, you have a lot of players in either small towns or towns and cities where they're kind of the big show, they're the big draw. I think there is some responsibility, and if you talk to players that are in the NHL now, they often cite their junior coach as a huge mentor and a big reason why they're there today. So I think it's okay to put that on the coaches, because they are really molding these young men, and if they can do it in a positive light, then that's wonderful, and I think they should strive to do that.
Ryan and Cheryl, thank you both for being a part of this discussion today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No one from the Coburg Cougars Hockey Canada or the Ontario Junior Hockey League was made available to talk to us today, but the commissioner of the OJHL, Marty Savoy, did send us a statement. We have been in contact with the team and will fully cooperate with the authorities in their investigation. The league takes these matters very seriously and will await the outcome of the investigation. Now, money